Hey everyone, what's up? I'm here today at the world famous Gracie University in Torrance, California, where today I get a chance to train with the great Ryron Gracie. So that being said, let's get to training. I am 51 years old. I've been a practitioner of Okinawan Shorin-ryu karate since I was 7. There was some who would call me a master. I assure you, I am not. I believe that the true expert is someone who still has a student's heart and a beginner's mind. This year, to celebrate turning 52, I'm setting out to learn from 52 other disciplines, each from its own master. Some things I've tried before, others I'm a first-day beginner like anyone else. 52 weeks, 52 new skills. I'm William Christopher Ford, and this is 52 Masters. Okay, so we are here on the mat with my friend Ryron Gracie. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you. Good to hang
What a great opportunity. So we're going to talk a little bit about self-defense, jiu-jitsu, and a ton of other stuff today. So this is going to be a really great segment. So, man, this facility is, I have to say, it's really amazing. The other facility on Artesia was great, but parking was always a little bit of a challenge, you know. Sometimes you'd have to park 3 or 4 blocks away, and that'd be your warm-up, you know. But just an amazing facility, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Mat space,
yes,
and parking spots, and even locker room space, right? Those are the 3 things that you got to really consider as the school is growing. So we got more locker room space and mat space and parking, like you said, than ever before. It's been great.
Yeah, you know, you could just spend the whole day here just kind of exploring, you know, but just
it's a playground.
Wonderful facility. And, you know, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the self-defense aspects of jiu-jitsu and, you know, of life. And I know that, you know, self-defense for you is not always about the technique, the physical technique. It's a whole mindset and attitude that you carry with you that can actually perhaps even prevent the fight altogether. So perhaps we could talk a little bit about that, maybe go over some de-escalation techniques, for lack of a better word. You know, and I'm a little hesitant to call it a technique, but for lack of a better word,
of course,
you know, just kind of going into that. So
I did have somebody a while back. We were like this. The guy, it was at an outdoor area, inside a little restaurant area, kind of outdoor area. The guy was a little drunk, and he just walked up very much like, "Hey, man," like it was one of those pushes that it didn't startle me. Okay, it was a push. And my immediate thoughts are, as I got pushed away, I reapproached, and I just said, "Hey, I'm so sorry." The same talk as before. Yeah. But all I'm looking at right now, all I'm feeling is, number one, if he steps towards me more, walking towards me, I walk in, I can't let him get past this. Okay. 1 arm length distance. Okay. Now, because I can tell he was intoxicated, I allowed him to walk towards me, and I say, "Hey, yeah, I know, I'm so sorry. I apologize. And hey, my bad, I'm gonna stay out of your way. I'm gonna go over there, okay?" But my hands, notice where my hands are on your arms. Yeah. I'm not like grabbing your wrists or pushing your chest. My hands are in a place where it's very acceptable. If you have your hands down and I grab your wrist, this doesn't feel comfortable. Right. Even me putting my hand here. But my hand on someone's shoulder, this is a more common area that people accept being touched. So here I am on like the bicep shoulder area. If at any moment he tried to punch me, go ahead. No, my hand's on the inside. See this structure right here that my forearm creates. And then I would drop into a clinch potentially, or once again, punch again. I can block, and then I can push him back and create more space and give one more opportunity. And now if you were to attack me again, I keep distance, and then I just, boom, enter, and I control. So this is something we refer to as managing the distance. And understanding what can be done from any position. So right here, for example, you're not going to punch me from here. Sure. Could you do a small step and throw a kick? Maybe. And then I would have to step back because I want to maintain the safe distance between you and I. So we can refer to this as a green zone. Okay. Because right now I'm safe. Kicks, punches. Now if you had like a chain, then I would still be in the red zone. I need to be a little further to consider the chain that you have in your hand or a bat. Okay. So now as I move into here, right now I am in the red zone. it's danger because you could reach my face. But I have my hands in a position and my energy and my base so that if you happen to walk towards me, I can keep you wedged. I can take your walk as a threat. And I can say, oh, I'm asking for this distance, but you're continuing. And so I can go, and go to the clinch. Or if you stand neutral and you throw a punch, like I said, I'm ready for that. So those are 3 options. Or you stand neutral. I can say, hey, do me a favor. Let's talk from right here, okay? How can I help you? I can let go and move back a little bit. And now if you decide to walk back towards me, once again, then you're not respecting the boundary that I set. So put your hands in my arms. There you go. Now do you feel, it feels very good. Now I'm gonna go to punch. Let your hand, there you go, and let it wrap, and a little bend in your arm. One more time. So as I punch, beautiful. And now from here, your arm goes behind my waist, clinch my body, clinch my whole body, just clinch. Boom, yep, you drop into a full body clinch. Controlling my hips, hold me close, and you can take me to the ground, you can push me away and create more space. But the point is that you don't stand in the red zone without having your hands in a punch-safe positioning. And then once we go to the clinch, for example, you punch me again over on this side, I block. Once I go to the clinch, I am now in another green zone. Now, can you hit me from here? Yes, but your punches are much weaker than if you were to hit me from this distance. So I move from green, I'm safe. As you walk towards me with your attitude and the energy, I step in it, just talking for now. As you walk in, I stop, and we stop now in a red zone, but I have my hands in a safe position. If you punch or not, I jump into the green zone again, which is referred to as the clinch. And again, this is not possible. This is something that people sometimes want to learn, like 4 moves. Let me learn a couple moves, so I can be ready. Which is not how things work. My ability to communicate from that red zone with my hands on somebody's arms and say, hey, I'm so sorry. Let's talk from here. How can I help resolve this? How can we make this better? With that energy is possible and that confidence, because I know that in the end, everything is going to be okay. If the person goes crazy, I'm going to grab a hold of them, and I'm going to do that which I've been doing for years and years and years. So it is necessary to really invest in your overall understanding of all the positions and all the situations that can occur in a street fight. And only then, the person that is the most prepared for a fight is the one that is less likely to ever get in a fight. The phrase, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yes.
Very popular phrase. I'm a lover, I don't want to fight. The question is, someone who's a lover, when they are challenged, when they are threatened, they only have one way to respond, from fear. Now, they could also be a lover and say, I'll never punch anybody, and put their head down and cover their, put their hands up and just get beat up. That is, you are being a lover, you're not hurting anybody, but you're also at the expense of you getting hurt. Now, if you're a lover that doesn't want to get beat up, you don't have the tools to defend yourself against the other person. So what do you end up doing? You end up going crazy. And this is why we see, when you see 2 people fighting, both people throw 40 punches in a minute. And they're both hoping that one punch lands and they knock the other person out, because then they kind of secure their victory. And now they're safe. Whereas if, one of the Machida brothers, for example, was in a street fight and somebody was acting crazy, they would stand still, as well as myself or any other very trained martial artist. They would stand still and do nothing. The difference between myself or the Machida brothers is that they would probably be so still, nothing, and then they would just throw one kick or one punch, let's say. Whereas I would be very still, nothing, and then boom, step in and grab the person. And I know that you're a longtime karate practitioner, and that's why jiu-jitsu is so beautiful, because when it comes to karate, you can manage distance and you can be safe and not be excessive, but then you throw one kick and you can end it. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, I don't have to throw one kick. I can keep distance, I can talk, I can calm things down, But if necessary, I don't have to be the person that throws 40 punches and knocks someone out.
Yeah.
I can be very calculated, take someone to the ground, and when I take them to the ground, am I fighting them? If I take someone down who's acting wild and coming towards me and throwing some punches in the air, and I take them down, and I land on top of them, and I'm controlling them, am I fighting that person? No, not at all. If a police officer happens to drive by, when I take someone down and I'm mounted on them, the police officer should just keep driving, so long as he knows that it's me. Because lay on your back, please. So with knowledge, I'm gonna go like this. Now what are you gonna do? You're the crazy person in the street. I'm here, you're gonna push me to the side. It's gonna be very difficult to escape.
Yeah, you're very heavy.
Because I have my hip pressure, I have what I call hooks. Push me to this side, I'm anchored onto you.
Yeah.
By my leg, push me the other way. Other leg, if necessary, my arm can hug under your neck. So my 197 pounds feels like a lot more right now because I'm not like this. See how now I'm rigid?
Yeah.
Instead I melt my weight onto you.
Yeah.
So I'm not fighting you. I am keeping myself safe, and I'm doing just enough to keep myself safe. Now for someone who doesn't know anything, this is what they need to do to stay safe.
Right.
They have to knock this person out, because if they don't, they run the risk of getting pushed off. And you get up right here, now freeze. Now look where I am now. I don't know anything. I'm gonna try to get up and you could potentially just boom, punch me in the face. So that is why someone that doesn't know how to fight, who would in many cases consider themselves a lover, I feel like should train jiu-jitsu. Because if you're a true lover, then you want to learn the martial art that allows you to protect yourself and your attacker through control, through distance management, through understanding, right? Through a certain respect. And that's what we do here.
You were on top of me and you had your hooks in. When I said you're heavy, I wasn't referring to your actual weight. I feel like all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden it's like this.
Yes.
And all you did was make a shift in your hips. And, and it was just really subtle, but I definitely felt this difference where all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, no, you're not going anywhere.
And think about what that says to the person that is trying to fight you, right? Where when you grab somebody, they've never been held like that before, whether it's standing or on the ground. It's almost like, I don't care how crazy they are, there's a little bit of a, hey, what is this? What's happening right now? Here I am as an adult. I've never been controlled like this in my life. And it's kind of calming. It can calm down somebody who's behaving, because even though someone's a little off and they're behaving a little wild and crazy, I don't think that they're that stupid. A part of them understands that they're at risk of getting hurt right now very badly if they don't quickly, adjust their attitude. And the other day I was in Hermosa Beach and there was a man who a homeless man attacked someone on a bike. He hit him in the head, he knocked him over. I didn't see the punch, but I saw him over the guy, and another guy tackled the homeless guy. I was second on the scene. And they were holding the homeless guy down, 2 people, and I wanted to be, I wanted to help as well. I wanted to control him. But they didn't want to let go of the man. Their energy was very much, we got him. And I said, okay. Because I wanted to, egotistically, I wanted to be the one holding him down, because I've never been in a fight, but I've been trying to get in one for so many years, but I can't find a good enough reason. Because someone's bad attitude. Now, even this man who attacked the biker, I wasn't gonna fight him. I was gonna just use my knowledge and control him in a much simpler way. These guys were holding him down, but they were on the floor. I was gonna go to a knee on belly or a mount control and just sit there. They didn't need my help. But the point being is that the man who was being held by 2, he was calm. And I have no doubt that one person could have held him down with a good understanding of, like you said, hip pressure and connection and those hooks that I was showing.
Yeah.
The guy wouldn't have fought at all because he knows he's in the wrong. And now he's in a place that is considered to be inferior on the bottom. He knows the risk that is possible in terms of strikes, even though striking is not our way. I shouldn't say it isn't our way. Striking can be used if necessary, but it's not needed in most cases.
Very, very profound. And the shift is very subtle. I mean,
Yes.
The mental shift and the physical shift is just millimeters, right? Just instantaneous.
Yes, the shifting of positions.
Yeah.
Which is all learned through play. And when students come to jiu-jitsu, they forget sometimes. They start thinking about the short-term gratification. They want to succeed and they want to feel good about today and they want to armbar somebody. That's small picture. Big picture is we want to understand ourselves and how we respond, how we react to situations. We want to better understand how to use our weight and these small shifts because we know that one day we may be in a position where we have to be physical, we have to set verbal boundaries, physical boundaries. We don't know what's going to happen, but something is going to challenge us at some point in our lives. And when that day comes, how much we've taken from our everyday practice will determine how we perform in real life. This is just a game. We're here, but it's a game to prepare for real life. So then you could say it's not a game. But I think that making it a very lighthearted, fun, work together, scientific kind of game approach makes it easy to do for years and for years and for years. If it's too harsh, then it could potentially be not something you want to do after a long day of work, or not something you want to do and have to drive 50 minutes for. But if it's a good positive energy and work together and helpful and safe and informative and it helps you feel more confident, then you can drive an hour and a half. You can have the worst day at work because you know it's going to be a beautiful energy here. Let's go to another position.
Okay.
The worst place in a fight, on your back right here, please. The bottom of the mount, which is actually the first technique that we teach people, is how to escape from down here.
Okay.
And the reason why is because it's pretty bad. You can't reach me, but I can reach you.
Okay.
Most people who end up on their backs, whether it's bottom of mount, this is like side control, bottom of side control, any type. If I'm inside your legs, I'm inside your guard. These are all different positions where you are on your back. All three of them, the untrained person is going to go crazy, trying to get off their back. Now, if we are untrained, what do you think somebody would do from down here if you're untrained? A lot of blocking, hands up, covering your face, trying to strike me a little bit. But also, if you want to get away, because your strikes are not the most effective, if you want to get out, a lot of pushing my body. And when you push, I have my hands out free, and I'm going to control you. You're going to be burning energy. Burning, burning, burning. And then when you have no more energy, then that's when things get very dangerous. So here's what we do, is that we teach you how to go ahead and mount me. Sit up to punch. Pull your arm out right here, yeah. So it's called the trap and roll, and there are a few variations of this technique. But the idea of freeze, as somebody mounts on me, I could let you sit up and create space and start punching, or go back, step off. As you step over, I close the distance. Now you might sit up to punch. Go ahead, freeze. I use my feet and I pull your hands back to the ground. Now with my arms, I climb north, I move a little bit north, keeping my head close and connected to your body. My hand reaches through, I wrap your arm. You're gonna wanna pull your arm out, but you can't. Why? Because I have a tricep grab, elbow pinch, and a body hug. Now I trap your foot on the same side. From here, using both of my feet, I'm gonna raise my hips, and you have nothing to post, to stop your fall. And now I'm out. From here, I block your arms. If you cross your legs, and you have an understanding of jiu-jitsu, it's okay. I'm gonna stay here, wait a little bit. When it feels right, I'll sit up. Maybe I'll strike you. You want to cross your legs, I can disengage, or I can advance. But in most cases, they won't cross their feet because we're not grappling. It's a street fight. Right. And if you don't cross your feet, my hands go on your hips, I pop up, and I'm gone. So stay right there one time, bottom of the mount. As I step over, hug my body, pick. Yes, perfect, hold your own wrist. Now, if I sit up a little bit, push off your feet, pull me down. Yes, from here, stay close. Using your arms, kind of ratchet up my back. There you go. This arm hugging my back now. Now wrap around my arm right here. Great. Grab my tricep with your hand. Perfect. Trap my foot on the same side. Now as you raise your hips up, your right hand reaches across. Go ahead. Yes. Very nice. Block my arms with your forearms. I like to block like this. Similar to what?
Right, what we did.
The standing.
Yes.
And now your hands go to my hips. Pop up, stand up, and you're gone. There you go. So now this technique, this trap and roll technique, is something that I learned when I was 6, let's say 8 years old, maybe younger, 3. I had a simpler variation of this, and this is referred to as the punch block variation. So I learned that when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. Now, until today, when somebody who is another martial artist or another jiu-jitsu practitioner comes into this building, the first thing I want to do is I would like that person to mount on me, because I want to see if I'm able to use the trap and roll. So a move that I learned when I was 5 is still probably one of the most used techniques for me today. And I'm 39. I do it every day. So I'm still training. I'm still learning. I'm a student. 35 years later, right? I'm still learning the first move I ever learned. Right. This is exactly why I believe people can be students of the martial arts for forever. Because it's never ending. You're always fine-tuning and you're always playing with it. And there's a certain freedom and a certain confidence in yourself, but freedom within yourself and in the school that we like to create. And we promote this in our school, that we want the students to ask questions. And hey, what about this? What about that variation? How about this? Where did they do that? And challenge it. My grandfather, Gracie, he got to where he got because of the scientist approach, the questions that he asked. And he gave himself permission to grab one way and then say, hey, you know what? This feels better. And then 10 years later, say, you know what? Actually, I want to hold like underneath this way. Because he's asking himself a few questions. Which one is the most energy efficient? Which one is the most comfortable for my body? It's the most natural. Which one keeps me the safest and most effective if I was in a street fight? Which one anticipates a street behavior from my attacker? When you ask these questions, then you're in the pursuit of, I guess, you want the final answer to serve the most amount of people. You want the best of what you can come up with. And at the same time, if 3 years later, one of his sons or grandchildren or his students says, hey, what about this? He's still open to saying, wow, that's good. So it's we're constantly evolving, but still in the direction of, I guess, creating an art or always perfecting an art that is available for people to learn, to know how to defend themselves, right, on and off the mat.
I had the honor of meeting your grandfather many, many years ago at the, when I first what some of the viewers don't know is that, your father, Horion, was my first jiu-jitsu instructor, and it was in his garage on Cali Mayor.
Unbelievable.
So,
what year was this?
1987.
87, so I was 6.
You were a little kid running around, man, and so I got introduced to your father and Gracie family through Mitz Yamashita,
Yes.
the Aikido instructor. He just passed away. Lived a great life, and he
Great
was
guy.
unafraid to die. You know, he just said, "Hey, you know what? Don't worry about me." So he, you know, I was taking a self-defense class at El Camino, and he goes, "Hey guys, you know what? I'm going to introduce you to my jiu-jitsu instructor." And you know, at the time, nobody had heard of the Gracies. We didn't know there was a Brazilian variant, and I'm like, jiu-jitsu is like the street version of judo, you know, and you know, with no disrespect. And he said, "Yeah, we're going to bring them down here. They're going to give a demonstration. You guys can, and you know, and if any of you guys want to challenge them, they will take the challenge on, and they, you know, and they won't hit you. You can hit them as hard as you want, but they won't hit you."
Where was this?
This was at El Camino College in the gym.
So he brought his
Yes.
jiu-jitsu instructors to a school
Yes, he was teaching
and
us.
said, if anybody wants to challenge them, you can.
This was
What a great school. Can you imagine if the West High School down the street said, hey, I'm going to bring the Gracies. Any of the kids can challenge the Gracies. What a great day that would be for us.
Well, at that time-
you know, imagine Henry and I fighting the high school kids. But the thing is, it's actually okay. Because you just said that Mitch said, they will not hit you.
right.
He knew that my father or my uncles didn't have to hit the kids at the college.
Yeah.
Did you challenge my father?
No, I didn't, because I have respect, and you know, I'm like, you know. But here's the thing: I thought that, you know, back before I met your father, I was like, yeah, you know, if somebody comes at me, I'm just gonna sidekick them. You know, I'm not worried about that.
That's an option.
But then, you know, it wasn't. You know, there was, you know, this is at the college, so there are people in the class who are adults who are trained, and so, you know, there were some people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna show my style. You know, I'm gonna show what I can do, and I saw them close the gap so quickly, and it wasn't just your father. I think it was your Uncle Hoyce.
Maybe Hoyler?
I think Hoyler might have been down. One time Hickson came down, you know, and before Hickson spoke English, right? And I just saw them close the gap so quickly. And once they were on the ground, they mounted. It's classic jiu-jitsu. The guy in the bottom is trying to...
Yeah, what we just showed.
Yeah.
And they controlled the kids, like I control you.
I was
lightly.
just like, you know what? I got to learn this. So I got your father's number. I called him up, and he says, yeah, by all means, come down. So, you know, I went to the garage in Cala Mayor, paid him $20. It was $20 for half an hour. And, you know, at the time, I was like,
$20, a little
$20.
steep.
I don't know, man. But you know, it's like, you know what? I need to learn this, because it's like, at the very least, I got to learn how to get up off the ground, and I got to learn what if somebody gets me on the ground and I don't know what to do, and I'm not going to be able to kick them. So the first technique I learned, your father says, you know, lay down, and gets me on the mount, puts his hands here and says, okay, what are you going to do? So you trap, you know, this here, trap the foot, and you oompa out, right? And that was the very first technique, which I think most people learn.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was my first technique too.
But you know, even today, look, I'm a student of martial arts for 48 years now. You know, a student.
Yes.
You know, and you know, yes, I teach, but at the end of the day, you got to put on your white belt, metaphorically, physically, whatever, because there's always something to learn. There's always somebody better than you. But that technique that we worked on today is the most important technique I've ever learned in terms of not just jiu-jitsu but self-defense. I mean, it's like, put it in my top 5.
Yes, I agree. It's in my top 5, right? The escaping from underneath one of the worst places, the bottom of the mountain.
Yes,
and so much of it has to do with the confidence that we have, that we have an answer for how to escape from underneath one of the worst positions. That confidence, we might never even get mounted, but knowing that if you get mounted, you have an answer, it allows you to exist differently. And you mentioned how you said, I might not be able to throw a side kick or a kick. I need to know what to do if I'm on my back and someone's holding me down. And this is why law enforcement, more than ever, for many years, my father has taught law enforcement, and now our GST program, which Hannah and myself have been teaching for years and years, this course is really blowing up, because there's obviously a lot happening in the country and in the world in terms of law enforcement and how everybody's eyes are on police, and a lot of pressure on them, and many police officers have made mistakes. But generally, police officers have this idea of, I'm just going to do this, and I have this, and I can do this, I can use my taser, and I have a dog, or whatever it may be. But we have to acknowledge that a police officer won't always be able to use the tools that they have at their disposal. They might be taken to the ground and things don't go according to plan. And when they end up underneath somebody who is strangling them or punching them, they have two options. They could potentially try to draw their weapon and fire from the bottom, or they can use techniques such as the one that we showed, this track and roll. They can hug the person's body, manage the distance, stay close, and they can remove themselves from that inferior position, and they can do much less harm. So using a firearm from the bottom, if you're being overwhelmed, is justified. But is it necessary? Maybe not, and that all depends on the level of training. So our mission right now, one of our huge missions, is to give police officers more tools, more confidence, and it's the same confidence. You said, I can't throw a kick, so I need to know what to do from my back. So now we're looking for police officers that say, you know what, I may not be able to, use my baton or my taser. So if I can't access those and I'm on my back and I'm underneath somebody, what else can I do? And in many cases, the answer is jiu-jitsu.
The GST stands for Gracie Survival Tactics.
Yes.
Is that correct? Recently, I think within the last 6 months, I think your brother posted about this, about the Gracie Academy being
Post-certified.
post-certified.
California.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Could you explain what that means?
Yeah, California police officers have to do a certain amount of hours every year to kind of to stay within, keep being a police officer. You have to do X amount of hours. Now, our course originally would not give them the credit for their necessary police hours in California. But now they can do our course and receive their required number of hours for the year, which is very nice because it's difficult to do, they might love jiu-jitsu and have respect for us and Gracie University and they want to do our course, but they're going to end up spending a week training with us and it's not going to work towards the hours that they need to do to keep their job. So then they go to another course. And now we're California post-certified.
This was just something that you guys have been working on for years, right? And just recently, it was just something where is this the only academy in California that does that?
I mean, maybe Jiu-Jitsu Academy. I would imagine it's the only one.
Okay.
Now there might be other training academies that are geared towards law enforcement, but Jiu-Jitsu academies, I don't think there's any other ones.
Okay.
And this is something that we've been talking about for years, but more recently we have friends of ours that are in, that work here in California, in LAPD, and they have just expressed how much of their course that they teach police officers is already so much of what we do. So it almost doesn't even make any, why aren't you guys post-certified? Because so much of what we teach to the police officers is from you guys. It should be kind of one and the same. Yeah. So it was a lot of teamwork with our friends that are in, law enforcement currently, as well as, our team here at Gracie University.
I know a lot of the law enforcement officers from the beginning, they were in the garage on Calle Mayor. I remember an officer named Augie, and
yes, I remember the name too.
Yeah, he was with Torrance PD for a long time.
Yes.
Nice man. But yeah, definitely, I think very important work. The question I have is, we talked about evolving techniques, and now you're dealing with law enforcement officers. They have service belts. They have their equipment, their firearm, their flashlight, whatever else they may have, right? The baton. Did you have to change the technique a little bit to compensate for maybe the bad guy's going to go for the,
100%. Yes, 100%. There are positions where if the bad guy is trying to punch the officer will take a certain arm positioning. If the bad guy is trying to go for the weapon, the officer will switch. We say, for example, overhooks for punch protection and underhooks for weapon retention. So if they're going for the weapon, you underhook their arms and you keep their arms away from the weapon. They're trying to punch you though, then you swim on top and bring your arms over their arms. So I feel like most, and this is what I've kind of gathered from teaching so many GST courses, is that most people are not willing to go for the officer's weapon. I would never suggest that. If you happen to get in a fight with a police officer and you go for the weapon, that's saying something. Why would you grab their weapon? It's a very bold move. And anybody
Yeah.
who does that is a different level of person.
Yeah.
And that it's very, very scary. So going for someone's weapon is not the majority. I think most officers need to focus on first just not getting knocked out and not getting punched. And the reason why the suspect attacks the officer or punches is it might be partially because they're angry and they want to harm someone. They're throwing their pain on the officer. But another part of it might have to do with wanting to get away. I think the bigger part, you're not going to arrest me. I'm not going to go. I want to get away. And they don't know how to get away other than through violence. So number one is being able to neutralize punches. And when you understand when and where punches are most powerful and most dangerous as an officer, it allows you to make a couple small adjustments and hold the suspect very close. And you can kind of, in some way, find a certain peace, even under attack from the suspect. There's a way to be comfortable because you know what is possible and what's not possible, and that's from all the training that happens on the mat. You can put some gloves on and you can punch at 10%, and someone can be very, very comfortable and have a good idea as to how safe they actually are. Where the same person, without the technique, they're in the fight for their lives. And it's always a fight for your life because it's a very dangerous job, and there is a firearm there, and who knows how far the suspect is willing to go. But how you feel inside, whether you feel a certain level of control, the officer feels like I'm in control and I'm safe, that's gonna help a lot in how he treats the suspect or how he or she treats the suspect, in the coming moments.
I think with incidents of some bad policemen, obviously there are criminals, there are bad policemen, but putting myself in the situation of like, well, why would somebody fight? And it's quite possible, but this person may be in fear of their life for what they've seen, and it's like they feel like if I go to jail, I'm not going to come out alive.
Well, they don't. They because there are a few policemen that have made bad decisions, and that's the thing, right? Is there other bad guys like a robber, bank robber? I don't even want to consider him a bad guy. He's made bad decisions, and he's a little off, and he's going to be punished for that. But from a place of, hey, you can't rob banks anymore, or you can't attack people anymore, we're going to lock you up. How I feel about that person, in most cases, there is it's what it is. Now, if they attack me personally or my loved ones, I can see how I might be a little bit more likely to want to punish them and not be so, compassionate.
Of course.
But so going back to the police officers that have made bad decisions and do not represent, the law in the way that they promised to do so. These police officers, they basically, when, a few incidents happen in a community where there are bad police officers and they are reprimanded by the police, department, it kind of sends a message. Who can you trust?
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody anymore. And there are police departments that are on the forefront of making a change. And we have seen some right now. We just saw a huge case where the police officer is being, punished for what he did, and he's going to pay the price for the crimes that he committed, which is great, right? And now there's the people. Okay, if you're being held accountable, they want them to be held accountable, but it's hard to hold somebody accountable when sometimes they don't have the training. So that's the question, right? Is it they don't have the training, or are they a bad person? And it's a very fine line, and all we know is that whether someone's a bad person or they don't have the training, if you're a bad person, meaning you don't make the best decisions and you have a lot of pain and you're out there to potentially flex and hurt people, you learning jiu-jitsu, I believe, can change that person. It can make them a kinder police officer. And for the police officer who is untrained and therefore is overly aggressive, use excessive force, as they get the proper training, they can now use a little bit less lethal force.
Well, I think with the proper tools, you tend to go in a stressful situation where, lives are in danger, and with, respect to law enforcement, I've never been in that situation.
Yes.
So, that side of it also needs to be, addressed. It's like, you're in the situation where you're in fear of your life, you're in fear of others' lives. But if there are, more tools available, such as jiu-jitsu, you have something else to default to instead of the typical, well, this is what I know and this is what what happens. But if you're properly trained, I've got all these other tools in my kit, and it doesn't necessarily have to go there. So I'm definitely in agreement with you. I think this type of training is not only important but very necessary. And
Yes.
love to see it.
It's happening
all across.
Yeah, it's available. Jiu-jitsu is out there. So for anybody who wants more training and more information, it's within reach. So there's almost no excuse anymore.
I was thinking about training in the garage. And just to be clear, I never went past white belt. I did 3 months of training in Cali Mayor. I got a good taste of it, and I've dabbled here and there. So I'm definitely a fan, definitely I respect jiu-jitsu, love most of the people I've met have been super, super cool, but I realize the importance of it, and some people, they make it their lifestyle. It's wonderful. I know that you guys went to the school on Carson Street, the two-level place, there was that, then you guys ended up at Artesia, and then eventually you're here. A few years ago, you guys came out with a series called Gracie Combatives, and this was taking 36?
Maybe like 10 years ago.
Okay, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
36 techniques that you felt were the most common. You and Henner did your research, and these are the most common street attacks, and you guys put it in this very comprehensive video series, which I think is very well taught. I love the explanations. I like how you break it down. It's very accessible to the non-jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. And how did you guys come about developing that? It was such a different approach to how jiu-jitsu normally is taught, where it's progressive, it's organized. How did
Well, jiu-jitsu has been taught in an organized, progressive manner since my grandfather taught.
Okay.
Especially in private classes.
Okay.
Now, it's difficult to do it in a group class sometimes, but we've also started doing that now. So there's something to be said about learning a technique, come back the next day, review what you've learned, and then learn a new one. And then the next day, review what you know, learn a new one. Review what you know, learn a new one. So everything is building on the last technique, and there's constant reviews. And we got to a place where we would come to class sometimes, this was, 15 years ago, and Hannah and I would kind of sit there and like, what are we going to show today? What are we going to do? What are we going to show? And it was kind of just a loose energy.
Yeah.
And then hold on. What do you mean, what are we going to show? What do they need? What do people need? And then we go back to all of our lessons as young kids, teenagers growing up. What are the most important things that our father, our grandfather, our uncles, what are the things that they really emphasize, as being important for us to learn? So then we just start picking and choosing and this, that. And now students come to class, and whatever they learn, whether it's their first class, third class, fifth class, if they come to a class, if they come to the Gracie Combatives class, they're going to hit one of these 23 lessons. But every single one of them doesn't require any past knowledge, can be learned standalone, learned on its own, and every single one of them, we show the problem. This is life if you're caught in a headlock, for example. And now here's the solution. So every one of them, the student walks away saying, wow, I'm a little more prepared. I understand one more, there goes one more situation where I never had an answer for, and I never even knew it was a problem. But now, when you explain it to me like this, you show me how simply I can get caught in a headlock, and now I didn't know how to escape 30 minutes ago, an hour ago, but now here's the end of class, and now I know how to escape. And there's a feeling that happens there, that's very empowering. And now the student goes home, and then the next day they say, hold on, that was one technique I didn't know existed, but it makes sense. It's a very common scenario that may happen in a street fight. I want to learn another one. I'm open to acknowledging that I don't know how to defend myself. And I see that they have a plan carved out for me. And that plan is Gracie Combatives. So it's been very successful. It's part of the reason why we moved to this school and we have this mat space and these parking spots and these locker rooms, because people are not fighters. They don't want to be hurting anybody, but they do want to be able to exist in a space of confidence. They want to be able to protect their loved ones, and they want to be able to do their job. And even in the workplace, you could be a full-grown adult and you're in the workplace and someone is saying or doing something that is a little bit on the sketchy side. Your ability to say, hey, don't do that. Don't talk to me like that. It's helpful to have the tools to defend yourself. It's hard to set boundaries when you don't have the skills to defend yourself if the boundary is crossed. So Gracie Combatives is like the core. And when I say Gracie Combatives, what I mean is it's just the basics of jiu-jitsu. So we titled it Gracie Combatives because it has to have a name, but it could also be called the basics of jiu-jitsu, the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And it's basically, if you only have 6 months to train, and then you can never learn anything again for the rest of your life, we would suggest you learn Gracie Combatives. That's it. And many people do that. They often start, they do 6 months. You did 3 months, you said. Now, if there was a course laid out, I'm not sure, was there a course for you?
Well,
there potentially was some photos and a little bit of a curriculum.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that when people have a plan like this, it's very comforting. And it's common that after they do the course, they say, okay, I'm good. And they stop. And we can now rest easy that person did 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. They passed the course. It's usually about 8 or 10 months to a year. They passed the course. Okay, there's one more person that is, prepared for the challenges that life may throw at them.
Got it. And that's the same once you do the combatives. There's also the master cycle too, where it's more advanced, and that's also structured as well, right? Where maybe a little bit more, jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, a little bit more deeper into the art, right?
When it comes to master cycle, people often think that the master cycle, which is like the advanced program, that now all of a sudden we're gonna just focus on 2 people grappling against each other, and that is part of it because. Like I said, we spend time here rolling in this room with 80 people. Yeah. And they're grappling day in and day out, and they're sparring together. And when they are rolling, they're not always throwing punches at each other. Some days we do that, some days we don't. It's me trying to choke you, and you need to defend my choke. Which, do you have to worry about getting choked in a street fight? Probably not. But the game of me trying to choke you and you defending yourself against the choke is a very sustainable game. You can do it forever. It's like it's the playing almost. Sometimes it's referred to as like a chess. Like you try to choke me, I block it, and I try to sweep you, and you defend the sweep. So there's a fun back and forth. So the master cycle is a fair amount of that. But we also need to continue to bring along the mindset of self-defense. Now, what does that mean? That means that if self-defense is not only somebody has you in a headlock and is punching you or pushing you in a street fight or yelling at you in the street. No, self-defense is even in our everyday grappling. For example, if you are side-mounted on me, and we're just 2 friends playing jiu-jitsu, okay? And you land here. Most people in the jiu-jitsu energy, and when it comes strictly to the sport of jiu-jitsu and the grappling, in my position, are gonna go and try to escape because they have this mindset of they're in a bad place and they have to get out. Okay. And even though we're just friends training here in the building, but now talking about self-defense, I don't have to get out. What I have to do and what I will do is I need to focus on 2 things. one, keep you from submitting me, and two, keep you from advancing your position. Submitting me would include like if you brought your arm over the top right here, and like you attacked my arm in an Americana. That would be like you attacking my arm in an arm lock. It could be a very, very basic submission. I don't want to allow that, or any other ones. And then advancing would be you sliding your knee over to mount on me. Go ahead, step over and mount. So you've went from side control to mount. You advanced. Go back, please. So the self-defense mindset continues. I don't let you submit me, I keep my arm snug. And if you want to mount on me, go ahead. I potentially use my elbow and I slip out. You see that? Yes. So I do a little bit of a hip movement, and now you ended up inside my guard. Whereas if I was trying, imagine me trying to get out for 45 seconds. And I'm like, trying, fighting. And then I couldn't get out. And now step over and mount on me. And you mount, boom. You see that?
Yes, sir.
And that is probably one of the most common, that's probably one of the most common scenarios.
Yes.
We end up on the bottom of the fight, and we tell ourselves we have to get out of here.
Right. Yeah.
Which you don't have to.
Right.
Now, what I believe you would like to do is keep from being armbarred and keep from being mounted. Keep the person from advancing and submitting you. Right. Keep yourself safe. So that's a self-defense mindset that is talked about in the master cycle, in the more advanced classes. And think about what that does for someone who trains jiu-jitsu. And maybe when you're 27, you can fight to escape from the bottom for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But there's a certain point, who knows, could be 37, could be 42, 45, 50, 60. There is a time in your life where it doesn't even make sense to be fighting to escape from under the side mount for a minute and a half. It doesn't make sense for a 23-year-old, but they can do it though. They have the means to fight for 2 minutes, sure. And they might escape in many cases. But when I think about my grandfather, for example, he was not trying to fight his way out of the bottom position. He just was very aware of what the person on top could do to him, and he made it his focus to stop them from doing the things that they wanted to do. And then he would escape when it made sense. So this is what I think of the master cycle. It's half, let's have fun, let's create the back and forth, right. But half, be very aware of, there is what you want to do. What you want to do is, I want to get off my back right now, and I want to get on top, and I want to impose my will, and I want to submit the person, because it feels good. That's what I want to do. Yeah. But what I can do, and what I really need to do, is something completely different in many cases.
It teaches you a lot about sensitivity, body mechanics, and balance. Yeah, sometimes I just want to say, okay, what does this feel like when I'm being put in here? I'm kind of, you were moving me around, and I'm going, well, that's interesting, and I'm like, oh, I'm off balance here, and I think if you do that a lot, you get really, really body sensitive. Yeah. If you can do that with somebody who knows jiu-jitsu, or then somebody who has no idea of grappling, it's kind of like, well, this is kind of easy.
Yes, and do you, how much sensitivity and how much experience you need to actually be effective in a street fight it's not that much. Earlier I mentioned how my ability to speak to somebody and say, hey, I'm sorry, and me to keep like a level of control in my emotions and not become too triggered has to do with my hours and hours of confidence. But even somebody who's afraid and in panic mode, they can still train reflexes to do some basic movements and keep themselves safe and defeat someone in a street fight. They can train for 8 months, a year and a half, and walk away. Now, when someone at the gas station says, hey, you fool, they might respond a little bit more, they might be a little more offended by that than myself, or a lot more. But when it goes down to the fight, I think that they're going to be fairly safe. So this idea of self-defense in our grapple amongst two friends as we flow through jiu-jitsu and we apply self-defense in our grapple where we don't fight to escape side mount for 2 minutes, that has more to do with, even though it applies everywhere, it has a lot to do with just keeping us on the mat. Because what's the big thing? After you, maybe it could be a year, it could be 4 years, you feel like, all right, if the person at the gas station offends me, well, I can defend myself against them. But then it goes beyond that. What do people want? They want to hang out somewhere. They want to be part. You want to socialize.
Yeah.
And you want to keep your brain stimulated. You want to be challenging yourself physically. You want to have fun. You want to sweat.
Yeah.
You want to have good conversations. So this is what Gracie University provides for many, right? Especially after I said that 1, 2, 3 year period, people are like, hold on, these are just my friends.
Yeah.
On top of that, we're constantly being scientists and we're dissecting things and we're sharing information back and forth.
Right.
So you have a choice. Where do you want to grow old? Do you want to grow old? Because everybody's growing old.
Yeah.
Do I want to grow old playing, lawn bowling with 8 friends into our 70s and 80s? Do I want to grow old, golfing? Or do I want to grow old on the mat?
Yeah.
It's all about what interests you. And I think all the time about myself being 77 years old and having grandchildren around me. That was my reality. I had an 83-year-old grandfather who taught me things.
Yeah.
So I look forward to being a 77-year-old grandfather having grandchildren who don't want to learn from me. Like I didn't want to learn from my grandfather. There was an energy of like, grandpa, I don't want to do it. But even though it was a little bit not my favorite thing at the young age of like 12, 11, I'm like, I better be out doing this. Looking back right now, it was probably the most valuable lessons of my life.
What was one thing that you learned from Mr. Elio that you still carry with you today? It doesn't have to be a physical thing, but just a grandfather lesson that he may have taught you.
Yeah, one of my favorite lessons that he taught me was he explains how it had to do with being in the present moment. It's present moment lesson. And he explains that, if someone comes into my house and attacks one of my loved ones, I'm going to stand between my loved one and that person, and I'm going to defend the person that I love. But if they attack someone and then they leave town, and then someone calls me the next day and says, hey, the guy who attacked your family, he's over here, 30 minutes away at a restaurant. I'm not going to go after him. And when he said that, I don't know how old I was, maybe 17. The first thought is like, why not? But then we realized that him going after that guy, now it doesn't mean you can't call the police and say, hey, somebody broke into my house. He's over there. Go handle it.
Yeah.
But it's no longer his role. He's not obligated to go fight the person and beat him up. It's already in the past. Now, sometimes we, as the person who was attacked, or we feel like we have to defend the person's honor, so we'll go and, hey, don't ever do that again. You beat the person up.
Yeah.
But it's already past. And I felt like that was very, very advanced. Even though it's advanced for where I am now, because he's 80 years old explaining this to me. So it's not advanced, because he's an 80-year-old wizard. So it makes perfect sense. But today, I think of the same situation, whereas, let's say I'm in the street and, I'm with my wife walking and someone says something derogatory towards my wife. My instinct could be to want to bark back at the guy. But I don't know if that's the move. I think the move for me is to look at him, he's 10 feet away, and hold her hand, stand between, be near her, and just watch his energy. If he approaches her, then I say, hey, how can I help you? But I don't need to beat him up because he said something very disrespectful to her. I don't even need to yell at him or say anything disrespectful back to him. I need to just make sure that he doesn't approach physically. And then if there's enough space, we walk away and we leave. And it goes back to the beginning of this discussion where I said somebody attacks me. The question is it easier to say, hey, I'm sorry, and walk away when they attack you? Yes, it's much easier. It's harder to walk away when someone disrespects your child or your family or your mother or your loved ones. It's much harder, but again, it's the same person that is in pain, and give them the understanding. My wife explains it very well. She says, Hiron, what is the need? When someone's acting out, what is the need? What does that person need? Now, I'm not trying to hang out for the next half an hour and figure out what they need. But the point is that there's always a need.
Yes, sir.
And what they need maybe is to feel powerful. What they need is to feel heard. Who knows? So I'm going to leave and I'm not going to fight them. Now, if it's my wife, it's okay. She's feeling okay. But when it's my girlfriend and we're 6 months into dating, there could be an energy, right? My wife, before I married her, she might have been like, oh, well, I can't believe you said that to me. That was so mean. And, why didn't you yell at him back? Or why didn't you do this? I'm not saying that for my actual wife, but that could be a potential kind of outcome of what happens in an event like that. So back to my grandfather's lesson is that it already happened. We're here to protect, and people will always say things and do things that are disrespectful. And if every time someone does something or says something that's disrespectful, you feel the need to go out there and that's just a heavy life. Now, someone who hurts somebody, like I said, I'm gonna call the police and say, hey, he hurt my family, and now he's there. I see him right now. Come get him, okay. But you see, it's from a place of protecting others, not revenge for what he did. It will happen, he'll get his.
Yeah, it's a different mindset, completely. Your father, I still run into him like 2 weeks ago, and it's always up and down Crenshaw Boulevard, and he's in his truck. And I usually wait till he gets my attention, and then I'm just like this. And he always rolls down his window and he gives me the thumbs up. And it's like, I'm not sure if he remembers me from back in the day, but my hair's longer now. But I always say, Professor, and with a little bit of Portuguese in him, tudo bem? And he says, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, hey, I said, last time, you never age. And he says, it is in the eye of the beholder. Plus, I'm trying to be like you, my friend. And he always used to say that when I would run into him. I'm like, it's because I'm trying to be like you. And I use that all the time. It's like, somebody says, hey, you look good. I'm trying to be like you. And it's like, I learned that from Ryron Gracie, But he's always been kind to me, and it's always good to see him. He's always friendly to me.
Yeah, he's right here. This is his street, right? Back and forth,
yes,
Crenshaw.
sir. Yeah.
And he, have you got to get him on this?
I would love to.
You got to get him on the show.
Again.
I'm going to send him an email.
I would love to.
Send him an email and say, hey, let's do this. You're a master.
I always feel, I see, here's the thing. I get intimidated because a lot of these people are my living heroes, It's like, but that's, yes, I know him, but that's Master Ryron. He's a busy man. He's important.
Yeah.
So
he taught you when you
even with you, I was like, gee, I don't know. Is Ryron going to do it? I just, when I was a kid, I used to read all the magazines and see, all these people. And, back in the day, I'd be like, man, whoever's on the cover, who's ever in this magazine must be great. Now, come to find out that that's not always the case. But, the two things that I remember from your dad is escape. He taught me this thing when somebody grabs you from behind and you throw him over like a potato, so you step behind. And then also the thing about he's so personable, and so he's just very. He's always been so very friendly and engaging, charming.
Yeah, he takes the time.
Yes,
he takes the time, and which is somewhat common in the martial arts, right? For at least from what I've noticed, there's an energy of, hey, how are you? Because everybody, the most athletic, highest masters in martial arts, let's say the professional athletes, they're on the same mat as the person that has 8 classes sometimes, 10 classes. It might be an hour before, an hour after, but there's a lot of crossing where someone who has 4 classes is on the mat with me. I'm stretching right here. I've been training for 30 plus years. And it is like a home. This is our second home. So see somebody and say, hey, how you doing?
You're still able to do, you've been able to maintain your physical health. A lot of times in martial arts, sports, knees, back, neck, you've been able to.
That's a great question. Yeah, which is very common also. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, a lot of times the higher belts feel this need to have to always show that they are superior and kind of beat the lower belts and overwhelm them. Now, that's that's heavy, and that is very demanding on the body. To be 27 is one thing, 29, 31, but there's a time, who knows, 35, 40 years old, 45, where every time you step on the mat and you start rolling, you have to show the person that is a blue belt, purple belt, that you're better than them. It's gonna require, a fair amount of, taxing on your body. So when it comes, somebody asked me the other day, do I have any injuries from jiu-jitsu? And I said, no, not really. I mean, I've hurt myself before, like maybe 8 years ago, 6 years ago, but right now I haven't been training that much because we've been closed because of COVID. But in the little bit that I have trained, I have not gotten hurt, even though people might be black belts and brown belts and really strong athletic guys that I roll with. And it's because of how I practice jiu-jitsu, how I spar, how I roll. And so much of it is thanks to my grandfather, where my grandfather at 80 plus years old, he demonstrated to me how to do jiu-jitsu. And I'm not talking about the steps of the move. I'm talking about the tension or lack thereof tension in my body. So my grandfather was on the mat practicing and teaching and playing little sparring moments. You do little battles. He was doing that for his whole life. But why was he able to do that? Because he wasn't someone that would, right? Which is most people. They shake hands and they just boom, boom. My grandfather was like, he would mold and he would slip underneath and he would deflect and he would conform. So he wasn't going to war with the person to beat them. He would neutralize their attacks. He didn't have this mindset of, I need to beat you. He had a mindset of, I'm going to avoid defeat and I'm going to hang out long enough, and if you make a mistake, I'll defeat you. If you don't, I won't. It will end in a draw. If it's a draw, it's still a victory for me. If you make a mistake, maybe I'll capitalize on it and I'll submit you. So most people have this idea that when you spar, when you train jiu-jitsu, that you shake hands and it's my job to beat you, your job to beat me. And whoever gets the submission is the winner. But that's not where jiu-jitsu derives from. It derives from self-defense, keeping yourself safe. And my grandfather showed that all the time, and he especially showed it when we were teenagers growing up. He always taught us, he always focused on teaching us how to defend ourselves and escape from inferior positions. He was not too focused on teaching us how to submit people or how to control people. I think he knew that when we were 20, 24, 29, those things would happen. He said, no, let's put you on the bottom. I want it to where no matter where you land, you can defend yourself. And no matter where you land, you can escape. These are the two things, because imagine if he didn't if he didn't focus on giving us, his grandchildren, and many of his students, those skills. I might have rushed through my teenage years just using my athleticism, hit 20 years old, 21, 22, and never really spent that much time in these inferior positions and learning how to defend and escape them. And now I'm 24 years old, nobody can even get me on my back. So then before you know it, now I'm 36 years old. Then I'm 45, and now, oh man, I spent all these years using my size and my youth and my strength, and I didn't invest in the survival skills. But it takes someone who knows to put me in the position. It took him semi-forcing me. Hey, come over here, lay down. And I'm 16, 15. So grateful because now, no matter who it is in the world, I see somebody, 300-pound guy who's a brown belt, a black belt visiting from Canada. I go like this and I say, oh, come over here. And I lay down. And I'm excited for what he has to teach me. I don't even know the person, but he's going to teach me something or confirm something. He's going to confirm that I have good defense, or he's going to show me a hole in my defense. And if he shows me a hole, what a blessing. Yeah. How great is that? Imagine if I would have rolled with that guy and just avoided the bottom position. He would have never shown me the hole. So when it comes to injuries, because I'm not doing this, I'm not working my body that much. So when I meet someone and they say, yeah, you know, man, I can't do jiu-jitsu anymore, you know, and I'm getting too old. And I'm like, how old are you? It's like, yeah. I see guys at the grocery store sometimes, old students from back in the day.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, well, yeah, I'm 47 now. Okay. I'm getting too old. My shoulder hurts. Okay. They have no idea what they're saying. Now, that's not true. They have an idea. What they're saying is based on the idea that doing jiu-jitsu means this. They had no idea. If they came here now, 47 years old, and they saw how what I teach and what I encourage, what Gracie University stands for, and how when I see two students grappling and I see one on the bottom, there is nothing inside of me that feels like saying, hey, you got to get out of there. Not at all. Instead, I'm like, okay, what do you think the top person wants to do? Remember? Does he want to advance or does he want to submit you? I'll watch. And then when they try to escape and they fail and they get submitted, I say, oh, hey, I saw that when you landed on the bottom, you made escaping your priority. Do you think that might have resulted in you getting submitted? And then they're like, oh yeah. Next time, try not to escape at all and see if after 30 or 40 seconds, an opportunity arises to allow you to escape. And then when you tell a student that, and then I praise them for doing it, now all of a sudden, there's a much lighter feeling about jiu-jitsu. They're not so concerned with having to perform for their instructor or for their belt. The things that I find value in are much simpler and so much more sustainable. So now, when that 47-year-old in the grocery store says that, and then I come to class at 7 p.m. that night, and the guy's 53. And I just continue my day. You know? I'm sure he's got hurt everything, this 53-year-old.
Sure.
But does he ask unreasonable things of his body to where it hurts his knee or his shoulder? No. He's doing what he needs to do to be around the energy and to be playing the game and to be stimulated mentally, physically, and to be around. He's 53 or 62 or 67 years old. You know what I mean? Life is very short. We only have so much life. So do things that you enjoy. So it's my job to create not only a very informative and educational and realistic environment, but also fun and safe, and allow people to spend their lives here. Because that's what I'm going to do. The question, I'm creating it for me. Who wants to hang out?
Haters. Everybody's got them. First of all, you guys have been really cutting edge with your Gracie Combatives video series. You were 10 years ago, but even in the light of what happened during 2020, where everybody having to stay home, that became super apparent that you guys were way ahead of the curve.
Well, the online teaching.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, they didn't like that when that started years ago.
Everybody was doing it.
Everybody wasn't doing it years ago.
No,
we were doing it.
Yeah, everybody wasn't, but they were recently.
Yes.
Where they were trying to, and
Yep.
hats off, man, for you guys being so ahead of the curve on that one.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no doubt that people have said some very
offensive, hurtful things, and they're attacking us. But remember, are they attacking us, or are they expressing something that's inside of them? Something's bottled up, there's some kind of discomfort, or there's a pain or a frustration, and then they see us creating a online curriculum on GracieUniversity.com, and they say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. They throw fire. And of course, depending on who's saying it, sometimes it's a little bit more like, oh man, why are they saying that about us?
Sure.
They don't even know what it is that we're doing. They don't understand how the online process works at Gracie University. Let's send them access to the account, to the website, so they can see. So they don't know. So it's been very. Sometimes it's been a little bit like a little sad.
Sure.
But then soon after, there is a feeling of it's all right, because we know that we're doing a good thing. We know that our intention is to get jiu-jitsu to as many people as possible. Our intention is to get jiu-jitsu to all of the head instructors at schools around the world who want it, so that they can teach that which we teach here can be passed to the instructor through the online platform, and they can give it to their students. Now, someone who doesn't want it, great, no problem. So it's a little bit of a hit sometimes, but I know that my grandfather, I know that my father is proud. These guys, my grandfather would be proud, and that my father is very proud, because we have been pushing. When I say we, I mean myself and my brother Henner, as well as many other Gracie family members, but us too under this building. We've been pushing the arrow. My grandfather, shot an arrow. My grandfather and his brother Carlos and his other brothers in their generation, they had a movement. And my grandfather and everybody's pushing that arrow in their own way. And that arrow is jiu-jitsu for self-defense. That arrow is, a healthy lifestyle. That arrow is respect. That arrow is kindness. Now, there are different people pushing the arrow, so their definition of what respect is or a healthy lifestyle, and everybody has their own slight variations of it. But yet everyone's still trying to continue that which I believe Carlos and Elio Gracie started. So, and then that makes me think about my brother Henner and how much I appreciate him, because it feels like he has my back in every sense of the way. Anything that I want to do, he's supportive of me. And I feel the same way towards him, right? He has an idea, and I'm like, all right, I'll be there with you. Now, sometimes the idea, I'm like, I'm a little iffy about it, and I'll give my input, and we can adjust it to where I feel comfortable, potentially, and the other way around.
Okay.
The point is, having somebody who's 100% on your team is priceless. And sometimes what one person wants and the other one wants, maybe I want something that he doesn't quite want. But still, the relationship allows that. I want something he doesn't want, but there's still ultimate love and respect, and there's an understanding. But the big picture is that both of us are very grateful for the Gracie family members that came before us, that have fought and pushed for this art, and it has now landed on our laps. Years ago, it landed on our laps in our lives. And we both feel a certain responsibility to give this to more people. Now, whether it be 10,000 people or 100 people, it doesn't matter. It's just something that's so good that we can't help but want to give it to law enforcement, to children, to women that have, anybody. It could be a teacher. So we want to give it. We enjoy giving it. And I'm just so grateful that my brother enjoys giving it as much as I do. If not more sometimes, right? In terms of his personality, he loves giving it even more in the way that we see him giving it. And he's got such an amazing personality and energy that he just never wants to stop. Go, 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 which is not so much my style. Mine's a little more discreet. And maybe it has to do with the fact that there were so many people in my life growing up that were always like, me. And that a little part of me felt like the world has so many people that are kind of throwing their ideas and thoughts on you. So I'm just gonna chill right here. You guys have all said enough. Imagine me in a room right now with my father and Hickson and Hoyce and some of my brothers and my grandfather back 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's only natural that everybody has something to say. Sure. When it comes to a technique or an idea or a mindset or principle, everyone's gonna shoot something. And a little part of me is like, okay, I feel complete. You guys all said great things. Next topic. I don't necessarily have to give my input. Even though I have ideas that I want to share, sure. I find myself like holding them. But so going back to my brother and my gratitude for him, because what he's saying is not necessarily only what he believes. He's expressing that which we believe. He's sharing Gracie University's belief and stance on an issue, for example, or a random breakdown. And it's been just too cool. Like some people don't even have any siblings. Some people have no siblings.
Yeah, I don't have anyone.
There you go. Yeah. Some people have one or two siblings that they talk to once in a while. So I have one sibling that I exist with day in and day out in this building, on the mat, off the mat. We had kids that are similar ages. Our wives were friends before we met them. So the whole thing is very cool. I'm very grateful for him, his wife, his children, and I guess my whole family is. Sure. So it's a very special thing in terms of the four of them and the four of us. And yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a very, very unique case. And that alone, like just think about it. Let's just say just having family, just having a brother and nephews and kids and a wife, and his wife, sister-in-law, just having family alone, if you truly just dive into that and exist with that, you don't really need anything else in the world. Now, we're very fortunate that we have so much more and that we can touch so many other lives, but the gratitude for that right there is tremendous, and there's even more beyond that. I have other family members and other cousins and relatives and siblings, but strictly on Henner, who's my partner and my brother and my best friend, it's too cool.
This is amazing. So my final question, and I always ask this of all my guests. Let's say you have one lesson that you want to impart. Let's just say, for instance, okay, today is my last day on the earth. This is what I want my students to take away. What would that be?
My last day on earth, I want my students and friends to really look at what they're doing day in and day out. Whether it's in how they're doing jiu-jitsu, in how they are being a partner in a marriage, how they're being a father or a friend. Look at how you are existing as a person and what you're doing day in and day out. And do your best to create a world for yourself that you enjoy all of the aspects of it. So when it comes to your relationships, create a situation where you enjoy your significant other. You understand? If something's not enjoyable, work on it, make it enjoyable, change it, do something. Your jiu-jitsu practice. If you're suffering and you're getting injured and you're not having fun, figure out something you can do to protect your jiu-jitsu practice and you can enjoy it. So protect yourself, meaning protect your practice, protect your relationships, even like your body, like your health. Protect your health. If you're not enjoying how you're feeling every day, day in and day out, protect yourself by focusing on how much you rest, what you eat and drink. So take care of yourself and create the most pleasant, enjoyable, beautiful situation for yourself. You're constantly working on creating that because, like I said earlier in the talk, life is not very long. We only have one life. We don't know. Like you said, it might be my last day. Today it might be my last day. So today when I go home and I spend 3-4 hours with my family, I want to create the most enjoyable time. Naturally, there will be little bickerings and arguments, but how I look at my children, how I feel about them, look at them from a place of, this may be my last moment. This may be my last role. You know, this is my life. I only have one life. Take care of it.
This has been thoroughly enjoyable. I got so much out of this time. Thank you so much for spending time with me and sharing with me. You know, we just had a very interesting flow. You know, just flowed from one thing to another. We're sort of doing a jiu-jitsu of an interview, you know, about jiu-jitsu and about life. But you know, I really wanted to thank you so very
Thank you
much.
so much. I'm glad you called me and we made this happen. And for my wife, right, for seeing you in the street and say, hey, Carl, how you doing? And make him one of the 52 Masters conversations.
Yes, sir.
And I'm very excited for you that you even that you're even doing this. It's very cool. It must be very fun. Yeah. And just the idea of being able to interact with 52 different people, right, over a span of time is very cool, and I can only imagine how much you've taken in over all these discussions. So I'm glad to contribute a little bit.
Well, it's been tremendous, and once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been here with the great Ryron Gracie at Gracie University. I'm William Christopher Ford, and we'll see you next time.